Good afternoon, this is Kash Jackson, retired Navy veteran, founder of Restoring Freedom, and 2018 gubernatorial candidate here in Illinois. And I apologize if you pick up some wind sound. It's just too nice to be inside, so I came out. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the 13th Amendment. If you guys have never seen, there's a Netflix documentary called 13th. I recommend you watch it. It's about the abolishment of slavery, which is what the 13th Amendment was intended for, and how slavery was never truly abolished in these United States. Now, I'm going to take it a step further and kind of delve into something that many of you guys are familiar with, and much of what we work on, which is family law reform. I want to talk about where the state is imposing itself, and has been for decades now, has been imposing itself more and more to our private lives and finding ways to circumvent the 13th Amendment and creating slaves to the state. And they do this through a variety of ways, and I'm going to focus on one specific one that they never talked about, at least I don't recall them ever talking about in that documentary. And it surrounds child support. Now, please don't get conflicted in believing that, sorry, I've got this bug harassing me. It's probably a government spy. Don't believe for a second that I'm advocating that parents don't support their children. Nothing could be further from the truth. I am a staunch supporter of parental rights and moms and dads having their rights to raise their children not infringed upon. And the states have gotten to where they take immeasurably more interest in how we parent and raise our children. Now, if you review child support, you go back to when child support began and what its historical purpose was. It was intended for individuals living on welfare to balance so that taxpayers were not funding all of the assistance for these individuals. Now, it was predominantly mothers, because back then they really relied upon what was known as the tender years doctrine, essentially stating that in the tender years of a child's life, it was best for the children to be with the mother the majority of the time. We have since debunked that social science, and that is no longer accurate. But that's what it was intended for. It was never, ever intended to be a one-size-fits-all model where in the majority of custody cases that child support should be ordered in any way, shape, or form. You see, we have what's known as equal protection under the law. And in the cases of custody and in child support, predominantly what's occurring is we're creating two unequal classes of parents. Now, I want you to think for a moment about the majority of child support that's owed. The majority of all child support that is owed nationally is owed by fathers. So number one, this already indicates the unequal class, because the majority is, and it's a huge disproportion. The majority is owed by fathers making less than $10,000 a year. Okay? Now again, child support, its original intention was for parents who were on welfare, receiving welfare assistance, to balance it out so that taxpayers were not footing so much of the bill to pay to rear some other person's children. That's what it was intended for. Now, somewhere along the way, in between, say, 1975 and early 1990s, with the advent of the Social Security Act and its revision, states began receiving federal funding for child support collection in Title IV-D cases. So a Title IV-D case is one in which, so we don't all have a Title IV-D case. Like, for instance, I don't have a Title IV-D case because the state itself isn't enforcing the child support order. So the Office of Child Support Enforcement here in Illinois isn't doing it. It's just through the family court judge. Now, in those cases where the parent is receiving federal assistance or state assistance through what we know now to be TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, they would have a Title IV-D case because the state is going to seek reimbursement for funds expended on those children. Okay? So again, we're creating two unequal classes of parents here. Now, there's an interesting case from back in like 2002. It was from a Superior Court judge in Georgia, and I forget the name of the litigants in that case, but the Superior Court judge found that the Georgia child support guidelines were unconstitutional because of a couple of the things that I've mentioned. But what does this do? How does this continue? How does this continue to perpetuate a state of slavery in the United States? Well, you have the state, number one, invading your right to privacy, because oftentimes what they're doing is they are going above and beyond what the child needs, because they're not using any economic or true data that indicates how much a child needs. For instance, we have USDA guidelines. USDA guidelines is how they determine how much money is given to foster parents. But yet those same guidelines are inapplicable in the majority of these cases. What they do is, as the net income of typically the non-custodial or obliger parent, typically as that income is higher, the support order is higher. So it's not rooted in any factual data. They're merely rooting it based upon some arbitrary number, i.e. 28% of my net income for 2 children in the state of Illinois, which goes to a parent who makes nearly $100,000 a year. Obviously, the mother of my children isn't on temporary assistance for needy families. Now, and here and in my own personal cases, where you can see where two unequal classes have been created, where I'm supposed to be paying somewhere around, because now I have my children 3 days out of the week, from in the morning till in the evening, so I don't have to pay for as much childcare. But nonetheless, my average support order would probably range right around $1,800 or $2,000 a month. Now, she would receive all of these monies tax-free. So that's a tremendous windfall where they haven't considered my financial circumstances. They refuse to look at hers, and they only go off of a blanket number of 28%. And predominantly, who's being locked up for this? Predominantly, it's minorities, okay? Because in their cases, oftentimes because they are living at or below the poverty line, again, the majority of all child support owed is owed by fathers making less than $10,000 a year. And Joellen, yes, Illinois' laws did change, and I'll hit on that in a moment. So let me talk about Illinois for a second. So a guy here by the name of Boris, he submitted a FOIA to the state of Illinois and got a county-by-county breakdown of the state. And approximately 90% of all child support paid is paid by fathers. Okay? So again, we're showing the disproportion and the inequality of the law, and that in itself is unconstitutional. You've created two unequal classes of parents, and I'm not knocking on moms here, okay, moms? So please don't take it this way. I know there's a lot of moms, like my friend Joe Ellen, that have been adversely affected, and my friend Yvonne and Tina and quite a few others. But disproportionately, it has been fathers, and that's not my opinion. That's just the historical and factual data that we have on record. Now, what the state sent back to my friend Boris was that approximately 90%, statewide, approximately 90% of all child support here is paid by fathers. And that is already indicative that approximately that same number, approximately 90% of custody is awarded to mothers in this state. That is unconstitutional. And they are utilizing numbers that are very arbitrary because they don't use any type of factual data. And when the state goes above and beyond forcing a parent, forcing you to pay above and beyond what a child's needs are, and the USDA has guidelines on how much it costs to raise a child approximately in the United States. And once they go above that, they have now went above what their authority is. Their prescribed authority is to ensure equal protection under the law. And they used this vague term of best interest of the children. Best interest of the children, as far as the state is concerned, is ensuring that all of their basic needs are met. Once they've determined that the basic needs of the children are being met, the state no longer has an interest. It stops at that point. And we have not challenged that enough. We have not challenged that as hard as what we should have to show that this is unconstitutional in a variety of different ways. And it perpetuates a form of slavery because it takes one parent and locks them into a system, oftentimes where they cannot afford the support order. And now, because these cases are typically handled inside a family court, where you don't enjoy the same due process that you would in a criminal court, they can go ahead and just hold you in contempt. Let me let the wind die down here for a second. But now they can go ahead and hold you in contempt and not give you a right to an attorney, no right to a trial by jury. And basically, if this is monopoly, you know, there's no do not pass go, do not collect $200. You're going straight to jail, into a debtor's prison. Correct, Mr. Rhodes. You're going straight into a prison, into a debtor's prisons, which were outlawed many years ago. So when you hear, and I had a fellow veteran say this to me the other day. In fact, a fellow veteran messaged my page, and he said, you know what? Basically, he said, you're a deadbeat. You're a disgrace to veterans. Just pay your child support. And I would challenge that veteran and say that he is a disgrace for not knowing the Constitution and not knowing that a lot of our fellow brothers and sisters, fellow veterans, are being forced onto the street and being forced into these for-profit prison systems while their constitutional due process rights are being circumvented by state courts every single day to create an unequal class of parent and to support the state receiving its federal subsidies through Title 4D of the Social Security Act. There's a lot of flaws here. Look, let's just break it down Barney style. If you've got two parents who want to raise their kids, you got a mom and you got a dad. It took two people to procreate to make that child. It takes two parents to appropriately raise those children. That's what a parent is about. Being there to support and raise your children, not just economically, but spiritually, emotionally, and physically. That's what a parent is for. And the state does not have a vested interest in how you raise your children unless the state can prove, and what they should be using is clear and convincing evidence, if they can prove that you are not providing for the basic necessities for your children. Okay, it's not providing some form of lifestyle. That's not the court's job. The court's job isn't to ensure that you're providing this arbitrary lifestyle for these children. Circumstances change. Relationships change. They break down and they fail. Okay, and you're not punishing the children because your marital status changed. You're not punishing the children. That's just a fact of life. And are we teaching our children that there's no adjustment to be made? It's like if you lost your job and you lose your job, and then the state is forcing you to keep providing some form of economic lifestyle for your children. And they say to you, sir, well, it doesn't matter that you lost your job. We don't care that you got your leg blown off while disarming an IED in Afghanistan. You have an obligation to support those children and maintain the lifestyle that they are used to living. Who's the parent here, me or the state? The 13th Amendment was meant to abolish slavery, and the states have made it profitable and beneficial to them and these organizations that are federally and state funded to bypass the Constitution. I'd urge you guys to look up that case. I can't remember the name of it. It was from 2002 down in Georgia, and that Superior Court judge ruled that the child support guidelines were unconstitutional. Now, I don't know what long-term effect that had in the state of Georgia. I have to presume that it wasn't much of any, because it was just, a Superior Court judge. It wasn't a Supreme Court or appeals court decision there. So I don't know how much further that case went. But the judge articulated very well how this violates constitutional protections. Slavery is supposed to be abolished, but by and large part, we are incarcerating predominantly minorities by circumventing their constitutional protections, their rights, their God-given rights to raise their children, provide for their children as they see fit, by creating two unequal classes of parents. And the mainstream media and politicians and far left-wing feminist groups have been quick to label us as deadbeat parents. I would label somebody who flees their parental responsibilities and just chooses not to be in their children's lives, who makes an active choice to leave from their children or to take no part in childcare or education or just the upbringing of those children. That is a deadbeat. But what it equates to in society is that you're not paying what the state deems that you should pay, even though it's based on some arbitrary numbers not rooted in any type of empirical evidence. We've got to move away from that and recognize that that is a fallacy and it is a lie. A deadbeat parent is somebody who doesn't partake in the rearing and raising of their children. Hold on one second. I've got somebody really important here that needs to talk to me. 1 second.
I just want to say, one thing that angers me is when I hear people say, oh, this father needs to do his duty and give money. No, his duty is to be there in his children's lives.
But you want me to put you on camera?
No.
I'll put you on camera.
No.
Marina doesn't want to be on camera. So Marina was just saying that one thing that really angers her, and it angers me as well, is when we have these individuals, just like that veteran said to me yesterday, where he says, just pay your child support. It's funny that that's all they focus on and that's all they care about, right? It's kind of like and I'm going to pick on a lot of liberals here, because I see this more from the liberal side, but not saying some conservatives don't do this too, they do. But where once they lose the argument of facts, they resort to just name calling. Well, you're just a deadbeat. You just need to pay your child support. Okay, well let's have the discussion. Is it more important that I'm here and I pick my children up 3 days out of the week, that I have them from 6:30 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, Even though my child support won't go down any because they're not overnights, but I have them throughout the entire day, playing with them, playing football with them, taking them swimming, helping them with their schoolwork, taking them to taekwondo and gymnastics and running all over Lake County, taking them to the movies and camping and doing what dads do. Is that not the most important thing? I would want to believe in this society, in this day and age, is that we would encourage fathers who aren't involved to be involved, and that if we're going to throw a statement out at them, how about it should be, hey man, maybe you should spend less time out at the bar, and maybe you should spend more time helping to raise your kids. Or if it's to some mom out there, hey, you know what, maybe you should spend less time drinking margaritas with your girlfriends and maybe a little bit more time attending your children's activities. You know what I mean? My children have activities, several days a week. And I take my kids on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. I take my kids to their activities. Pick them up early in the morning. Or when they're in school, I pick them up after school. I'm a very, very involved father. That's the only expectation that we as a society should really place upon our fellow man, is that, look, now it's not our right to infringe upon that. Okay? We can have an opinion, but as parents, we have an individual fundamental liberty in the rearing and raising of our children. So we have to begin dispelling these myths. This deadbeat dad myth, they're manufactured. I'm here to tell you. Deadbeat parents are manufactured artificially by the state, and it's overt intrusion into our lives. So I'm going to encourage you guys, begin researching this, and let's begin challenging these statutes that the states have imposed that are unconstitutional on their face. It comes down to the Constitution, and it comes down to God-given human rights that in many times the 13th Amendment should have abolished, and it didn't. And even take that just one step further. I see Mike here asked, was there married people here? Ask yourself, do single unwed fathers have the same rights as a married father in a custody case? And I'll go ahead and tell you, because it's a rhetorical question, they don't. They don't. So there's a lot of work to be done. My name is Kash Jackson. I'm not a deadbeat father. I love my children, and I'm here to raise them. I'm here to do what dads do, and that's to be an involved parent, to teach my children right from wrong, to help to rear them, to be productive members of society. My job is not to fund somebody else's lifestyle. My job is not to provide above and beyond the needs of my children unless I so choose, and it is not to be mandated by the state, which it has been, and that is unconstitutional. My job as a veteran and as a citizen is to bring attention to this problem in the state of Illinois, as well as the other 49 states, that the states no longer have the authority, and we have to take that back from them. We have to remove what we gave them, we can remove. And it is time that we remove the unconstitutional authority that we have allowed the states to infringe upon us and our fellow man. To all you dads out there and all you moms out there who are struggling and you're going through a tough time right now, keep your head up high. Do some research, okay? Don't just say my life sucks, my job's hard, and this is impossible. It is difficult, but anything worth doing is going to be difficult. Let's begin to challenge every single state and their infringement into our lives. Be a good mom, be a good dad, be there for your kids, and help to raise them and rear them. That's what a good parent does. If anybody tells you you're a deadbeat because you can't afford some ridiculous child support order to fund somebody else's lifestyle, well, their opinion doesn't matter because they're ignorant asses anyways. Okay? They're uneducated. So you can't have a conversation with somebody who's got a book with all the pages torn out of it. Okay? You just can't.
Yeah, I also want to add, their argument is valid.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Their argument is valid when they say that they're trying to keep the same standard of living for the kids
Right.
at their home.
Right.
But if they also have another home and those same standards aren't there,
Right.
from fruit is illegal.
Right. So Marina makes just a really good point.
It's hard. It's worse.
I'll tell you guys. So she was referring to the standard of living that the children would have enjoyed had the relationship not broken down. Okay. And she makes a very good point here that I oftentimes forget to state. And that is, so had the relationship not broken down, the children would have had greater access to you as now the non-custodial parent. The children would have enjoyed equal access to both parents had the relationship not broken down. But the state only seeks to ensure that the children enjoy the same financial lifestyle that they would have enjoyed had their relationship not broken down. The state will rarely ever seek, and there's no statutes for it really, they won't seek to ensure that the children have the same type of emotional and mental and physical support that they would have enjoyed had the relationship not broken down. You see what I'm saying? And I can tell you this for certainty in my own case, is that my children do not enjoy the same standard of living at my house as what they enjoy at their mother's house. Not even close. Now, my time is pretty equal for the most part, minus the overnights. But, I get my children, every Monday, Thursday, and Friday from, right now they're in summer school, but when they're not in summer school or in regular school, I get them from right after school till the evening time. And that's pretty equal in time to what their mother gets, minus, again, them just sleeping over. So, but when they come here, they don't enjoy the same standard of living. They only enjoy that standard of living in one home. So again, clear example of creating two unequal classes of parents.
And they mentioned that they feel sorry for us because we're divorced.
Slavery is alive and well. We've created slaves to the state. We have created a broken society because we haven't challenged the statutes that legislators have been passing under the guise of protecting our families and doing what's best for at-risk children and single mothers. And they try and appeal to the mainstream on an emotional level, while really what they've done is they've caused more harm than good, because they have pushed good and loving parents out of the lives of their children, oftentimes causing some of these parents to not pay into the tax base because they have to go under the table, because they can take all the way up to 65% of your income. Now, you take somebody who's making $20,000, $30,000 a year and take 65% of their income, and then tell them to provide for themselves, and then also ask of them to be an involved parent in the rearing of their children. You can't do it. I'm sorry, you just can't. This is all food for thought, things to debate. I love any type of constructive feedback, so if you want to debate this issue with me, I'd love to debate it. If you only want to come on here and just say, well, you're a deadbeat and just pay your child support, you can kick rocks because I've got no use for ignorant people like you.
Or you're welcome to come over and talk to our faces.
Yeah, and I would even challenge you even more that if you're really an adult about this, I would love to have the conversation, but let's do it in person. If you're anywhere in the Illinois region, I travel all over Illinois, and would love to have this conversation with you. We'll sit down and talk like adults, but for those that are incapable of that, like the veteran from yesterday that just wants to sling insults and ignorance in my direction, I have no use for you. And if he watches this video, I'm going to encourage you to utilize a Stairmaster and stay away from McDonald's. Just food for thought, okay? That's all that I have. You guys have a wonderful day. Be blessed. If you've got any questions for me, PM me. I try to make sure that I get back to everybody to the best of my ability. And this coming Saturday, we're going to be down in Belleville, right outside St. Louis. So going to be a little ways away. It's about a 6-hour trip down there. I don't make it down that way very often. So if you could come out in the St. Louis region or you know people down there, I have the event. I've shared it on this page and it's on my governor page right now. Please come out. Come and meet me. I would love to meet you guys and speak with you. Any questions that you have about any of my other platform issues, would love to talk about them. And don't be a stranger and stay out of danger. Like how I made that rhyme. Kimberly, I see you're close to Belleville, so you better come out. You better be there. We got a barbecue on Saturday. Fred Walls, which convention? Are you talking about the one out in D.C.? If you're talking about the one in D.C., you can go to the Restoring Freedom page. We keep that updated. Mike, I didn't know you're in Lake County. Mike, send me a PM, buddy. Yep, Kimberly, Saturday. Yeah, there's going to be some more things that are forthcoming, Mike. Some of that is being organized by the state Libertarian Party. So I know they're working on getting some debates together for myself and the other two Libertarian candidates where we can go and kind of debate it out. And I'll make sure I keep you guys apprised of them as I know about those. Mike, if you'd like to volunteer for my campaign, or anybody here, if you want to volunteer for my campaign, please PM me. I would love to have you on board, could use the assistance. And especially in some of the outlying areas, down in Belleville, other areas, you guys let me know. I would love to have your support in whatever capacity you could provide that. So have a wonderful and blessed day. Be safe, and I'll talk to you guys later.